Again, um, 1,119 days today. Let's try it. Let's see if I'm on. Okay. Okay, it looks like I'm on. All right. Okay, so let's get started. And thank you. 1,119 days since Richard vanished from the barracks there at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. And every day is breaking news. Every day is breaking news. And there's so much because we are a military family. We do have some connections, even though my husband retired in 2006. But maybe that's a good thing because the people that we are in contact with, they love this country and they are, um, they served without betraying the people of this country or their oath. And so I don't know what happened to our leadership in the last, I don't know, years, especially the last 3 years, but it had to be before that. So let's say the last decade. I don't know what happened that these four-star generals, 44 four-star generals, now I think there's only 42 right now because two slots are empty, maybe three slots are empty. There needs to be a lot more slots that are empty because our 44 four-star general and admiral billets have betrayed us. That those that are in there, they have betrayed us, and they're serving foreign and domestic enemies, and they might not even know it. They might just be silent, but silence is consent. You see, silence is consent. And when you have this kind of stuff going on, and maybe um, I've been trying to figure out why they have um, betrayed us so badly and are so afraid. And I'm starting to get a pretty good picture with Richard's case because even we have had to put in criminal complaints because we're being harassed, we're being targeted, we're being threatened, we're being intimidated. And, so we have to be very, very public. I can't let off at all on these live streams because we have to be so public because of the retaliation that Team Fine Richard Halliday has received. Even our key witness is receiving, life life harming. It's changed our whole life in retaliation, um, and which is intimidation, which is harassment. And who would do this? Well, my first person on my list that would be the harasser is someone that would have a history of harassment. And it seems that the Hart family has a history of harassment, especially Leilani Hart. And Leilani Hart, of course, um, it plays a huge role in Richard's case. She is a main suspect in this case because we have a witness that does what witnesses do, hears, sees, and is part of a group that overhears, oversees that Richard's file was tampered with, um, that there was bodily harm, that videos are missing, surveillance videos are missing, surveillance videos have been tampered with, and on and on and on and on. And, but we also have a history of police reports and I would say criminal files, criminals, criminal files that have been uncovered. This is a criminal family with criminal connections, um, and it seems to be when you have so many criminal files that are easily uncovered, and that's why you know now I'm going to get to the main purpose of this live stream, but but this is very, very important for people to understand that if we can uncover this with the little bit of resources that we have, with the very few connections that is growing and growing and growing now that we have an alliance, um, you know, why not El Paso Matters? Why not Ms. Kachurga? Why not KTSM, right? And those that have covered us. Why not KTEP? Why haven't they covered this? And I really focus on El Paso Matters. I really focus on El Paso Matters and KTEP and Ms. Kachurga because they get tax-free um, status, and they're supposed to be neutral. So they should absolutely cover this story. They should. KTEP is the public radio for the El Paso area. They should cover it. And if Team Find Richard Halliday can uncover these criminal files on the Lonnie Hart and her family, because we have, important, and I know, I have all kinds of backup for live streaming, and I don't know why I'm having this trouble. Because this is how we protect ourselves at Team Find Richard Halliday. This is how we also get the word out to everybody to find Richard. This is our only recourse, right? Of course, we write, and we're in connection with so many, but reaching out to the public is the most powerful. The public to know things is the most powerful. And, let me see if I can disconnect. And reconnect. I hope everyone can see that. Yes. Okay, good. So, doing these live streams, thank you for sticking with us, because this is our only way to reach out to the public, because Miss Kachurga is not doing it. El Paso Matters is not doing it. KTIP is not doing it. KTSM is not doing. These media outlets, they've been told not to cover this case, and it's not a cold case. It's a very dynamic case. It is a very dramatic case, and every day is a new uh, is breaking news, and so we have yesterday I revealed that um, there's a history of criminal files regarding James Hart, Leilani Hart, a lot of Leilani Hart, um, even um, even more, and now we have even more coming out that as soon as I read through them, I will share them to also with you because I want to know what are they for. Are they for harassment? Harassment seems to be the theme, and domestic disturbance, domestic abuse. Um, so, you cannot live the life, and I want to tell you that Lalani's criminal complaint affidavit that I had posted, it has been taken down, and which okay, um, it's good because it really is pollution. And you can't live that kind of life in that kind of polluted relationships without leaving a lot of trash behind, and messing with people, messing with other people's minds and hearts. So it's okay. It's okay. Matter of fact, I'm kind of disgusted that through these 3 years that that Team Find Richard Halliday has had to be polluted by this by the facts that are in this case. Okay, and they're facts because um, the fact is that Leilani Hart notarized that criminal complaint affidavit. That's a fact. Okay, and these criminal files of harassment, domestic disturbance, domestic abuse, that's a fact. And the fact that we have three more, that's a fact. And the fact that they have not been honest, that there is allegations to fraud within the VA, that the fraud, waste, and abuse, the allegations from Leilani that her husband, James Hart, okay, has been dealing fraudulently inside the VA. That's a fact. That allegation is a fact. And, um, Poche being part of this El Paso Matters retaliation, and him being 100% disabled and then claiming he wanted a job, that's a fact. And so we've reached out to him. Leilani Hart being 100% disabled, that's a fact. And I don't know what her job is today, but I don't understand, except for saying fraud, waste, and abuse. And why is the system being abused like that? And nothing is being done. There's no vetting, and there's holding no nobody is being held accountable for the fraud, waste, and abuse, and which is really astonishing because in my life, which is very connected to the military, since my father was in over 20 years and my husband was in over 30 years, um, there it was always said to us, no, we want to prevent fraud, waste, and abuse. It was always on the forefront: fraud, waste, and abuse. No fraud, waste, and abuse. No fraud, waste, and abuse. Right? And yet it seems like we have fraud, waste, and abuse at the highest levels. So I guess um, there's two sets of laws because the fraud, waste, and abuse at the highest levels in our system, um, and not holding people accountable that might be doing, part of their business plan or whatever. I don't know. It all needs to be investigated. We've put in a criminal complaint, and by doing this and reaching out because we are the chief investigators, a name has been given to us. And this name, who is believed to have close ties with Richard, close ties with the Hart family, that should be able to give us information about what was going on and the disappearance of our son, and even into the investigation of our son. And so this name that was given to us to reach out to, and I don't know any way else to reach out because I want to do it. We've decided, Team Friend Richard Halliday, that we would reach out publicly because security is of utmost importance. And the only way that we can reach out and have a little bit of security is to do it publicly, because we've been targeted now with threat to be retaliated against with threats, intimidation, and also harassment. Did I say harassment? Yes. So this person that we're reaching out to, his name is Edwin. Edwin, and I hope I say his name right, Sitienei. Edwin Sitienei. Seems that he also goes by Edwin Kipkirui. I hope I'm saying his name right. So Edwin, if you're listening, we're reaching out. We're pleading with you. For Richard's sake, for our family's sake, we have been told you have information. You have information. You were in very close proximity to Richard, and also to Dallas, and also to Leilani, and also to James. And so we're reaching out to you publicly, and we're pleading that you reach out to us and that you help us, that you help. And if you don't want to reach out to us, please, I don't know how, I want to say, can you go to the CID? Can you go to the military police? Can you go to the El Paso police? Can you go to the sheriffs? Can you go to, anybody that will, maybe the media, but Edwin, listen to me. They are overran. They are under control of a domestic and maybe foreign enemy of this country. We can't. The leadership of the El Paso Police Department has not answered our open records request and other requests, and they have information. The CID is implicated in the forced disappearance and bodily harm of Richard. The director of emergency services and the chief of security on Fort Bliss has said that the command on Fort Bliss is working outside of the law. That was Thomas Kane. That they are operating outside of the law. I don't think you can go to Park University for them to raise flags, for them to have a public announcement, because they are not forthcoming. And I'm believing right now that Richard might, in those complaints, that Park University was part of those complaints, because why isn't Park University forthcoming? My goodness. Richard was aspiring to be in uh, law enforcement? Okay. Where is Thomas Kane telling us about Richard's class there? Okay. Where is the CID telling us about the internship? These, we don't know where you can turn to, Edwin, to, except for come on alive with me. And I don't know. I don't know. I can't guarantee anything. I don't know what to tell you except for we're pleading with you. And it's a risk, just like we risk every day. And so um maybe you can write some letters. I don't know. I don't know how you can do it. But for children's sake, for God's sake, right? It's right here. Whatever you do, know that God is always watching. Do the right thing and live the Army values. It's right there. And so, Lalani Hart knows that. James Hart knows that. Dallas Hart knows that. You know that. We all know that, right? And yet, we're so afraid to do the right thing, to acknowledge that God is watching. And, I was in that lesson, and I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. How does Jesus cuss us out? How does Jesus cuss us out? He says, ye of little faith. Ye of little faith. And so, even though we don't know the outcome, we don't know how to report things, we don't know how to find Richard, we don't know how to get justice, we don't know how to hold these others accountable for their betrayal, for their cowardice, We don't know. But we're going to have faith that God knows and that God is going to go and do it for us. He's going to go. And as long as we're doing, exposing what daily God is giving us, like these criminal files against Lalani Hart for harassment, and James is mentioned in there too. It's curious. It's curious. I have my own theories about that, but for domestic abuse and domestic disturbance. But I think that Edwin could enlighten us in so many ways. I mean, what I know about Edwin, I think he was in very close proximity. And so we've decided, and we have others that we want to reach out to, other names. And the only way I can keep them safe, because remember, when we were there in El Paso, the one thing that was the common denominator was fear. And we thought maybe it was COVID, but they weren't afraid of COVID. Nobody was afraid of COVID. Very few people were afraid of COVID. I think more people up in the northern area that we traveled were more afraid of COVID, but not in El Paso. I don't think they were that afraid of COVID. They were afraid of the big hand of the system. Those that click heels together and can retaliate and can do horrible things like what's going on across the border, right? Going on across the border, we just had students that were murdered horribly. I don't even want to go into it. It's like a pollution again. And so I'm gonna rely on this. I need something good. I'm gonna rely on whatever you do. Know that God is always watching. Do the right thing and live the Army values. And I think that was Lalani Hart that said that to somebody. I mean, I think that's been said again over and over. And that's very interesting. It's like, is that a sheep in wolf's clothing? Let me put lipstick on a lie. I don't want to say that. Let's get all dressed up, but inside we're just rotting, right? Let's give people a perception that we are good citizens, that we are good Christians or good people or whatever, but but in the background, a 7-year-old is being sexually assaulted by multiple members of the household in Lalani Hart's master bedroom. Um, and there's more harassment, 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 and the fraud, waste, and abuse that she claims her husband is doing within the VA, taking advantage of our service members. Um, Social security numbers for forgery, lots of forgery, and um, this seems to be um, this seems to be a, a norm right now with the criminal syndicate, because it came out in the news that even our even Biden went and had a fake name, fake personas, and of course all through this we've had fake personas. So yeah, um, over and over again we can't forget them because of the disingenuous retaliation. It's like stabbing a person in the back. It's so cowardice. It's so cowardice. And especially for a family that just wants answers. What happened to Richard? What happened to Richard? So if you're just joining, this is 1,119 days. We are talking about the many criminal files that we have uncovered and still are uncovering. There's 3 more that we're uncovering that I haven't read through yet. Um, so the ones that I know about, that I have the numbers for, that I have the dates for, um, they're domestic abuse, harassment, 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 and also one for domestic disturbance. Um, and, you know, to the point, one of them was the prosecutor's request for certified copies, which means they're getting ready to go into a courtroom, into a trial. And so this is really um, breaking news that we have those files that show a consistency, okay? A consistency um, of harassment. And so, why does that matter? Because Miss Katurga with Media Matters, with KTIP, which are, they get tax free status and they are supposed to be neutral, have become political attack dogs and have interfered in Richard's investigation by trying to make Lalani Hart a credible witness, um, and or a credible witness, and Poche a credible witness when there are facts to the opposite side of that. because where is the El Paso police call? There should have been one. Where is the proof that you talked to neighbors and everybody through text messages or friends? That would be proof. There's not any. There's not a bullet. There's not any, so the investigation into those allegations was very badly done, because if they would have investigated, they would have seen, they would have uncovered the criminal files of harassment, 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 not by our key witness, but by Leilani Hart. Okay? Her history of criminality. That's what they would have uncovered. And, and they would have saved, what, a year? Almost a year of thwarting us finding our son. Look at how they've obstructed justice. Look at how they've denied us due process. They have teamed up with some criminal connected syndicate within Fort Bliss to block us, to stonewall. And it's big. And it goes all the way up the chain of command to the generals, because the 44 four-star generals are very powerful. The military is not like the civilian world. The military can click heels together, and they have to say, yes, sir, and they have to get it done. And so that's why they use the military for so many crimes against humanity, because, and they did. And they absolutely did. And that's why their lack of getting to the bottom of where Richard is, because they absolutely could find Richard in 24 hours. The lack of concern, the lack of their duty, the betrayal of every service member, because when they do it to one, they do it to all. That's why they could say Army of One. Leave no soldier behind. The Medal of Honor ethos, right? The Good Samaritan. That's why they could say that in their campaign. But they have betrayed that. They could absolutely find Richard in 24 hours and give us our son's remains. Okay? So, and we're reaching out today not to these 44 four-star generals and admirals that we know have gone to the dark side, right? That are serving foreign and domestic enemies, that are lockstepping to crimes against humanity, that are staying silent in the pursuit of a missing soldier from a barracks room, right? I mean, we have Major General Eisenhower that we're hoping, praying, asking people to write that he could do the right thing. He's a flag officer. He's not a four-star general. So maybe he can be swayed to come back to the good side and do the right thing, right? As Leilani Hart, whatever you do, know that God is always watching. Do the right thing and live the Army values. I don't know. So I hope if Major General Eisenhower's watching, maybe he will do that. Maybe you can write that to him, because that's what we need to do. That's what we need to do. We need to depend on him. But we don't want to put all of our eggs in one basket, right? So now we're reaching out to this name. And we've been given many, many names. But this name was and is very connected to Richard, very connected to the Harts, and being it Leilani Hart, Dallas Hart, and James Hart. And so we will see if he will help us. You know, I think coming onto a live stream would be the best thing. Would be the best thing. He has to stay very public, right? Um, and his name is Edwin um, Kipkirui, Kipkirui, and Sitienei. Sitienei. I hope I'm saying those right. I did post a request on Facebook, and I think that that would be just a wonderful thing if he could help us. Okay. And I think keeping it public uh, puts a really good safety net on what we're doing and our request. So, with that, if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer. I know today's a little bit earlier, and it is a Friday night. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer. And reach out to KTEP. Reach out to El Paso El Paso Matters. Reach out to Miss Kercherga. Reach out to those other media outlets, because that's how we're going to get through to these agencies, is making these live streams and getting public. So, okay, everyone. Thank you so much for coming on. And I will be back tomorrow, God willing. All right.